Hello, my name is Francesca Crawley. I'm a neurologist at West Suffolk Hospital in Bury St Edmunds. I'm acting as the Foundation Training Programme Director there at the moment due to COVID, and I was in that role for 8 years beforehand. I've also been involved in mentoring in the East of England since we started about 4 years ago. So first of all, I'd like to thank you for offering to mentor our interim FY1s during COVID-19. They will be extremely grateful, as are we in the East of England Deanery, for your help. So what I'm going to talk about is what do we mean by mentoring, what makes a good mentor or mentee, the mentoring relationship, the skills you need, and what next. To be honest, you'll know quite a lot of this, but I think it's good to formalise it for you. I want to increase your understanding of mentoring, understand how it differs from other workplace relationships, how to set up, run and troubleshoot mentoring relationships, develop some practical knowledge, skills, and increase your confidence. So if we were running a whole day session at this point, I'd give you at least 10 minutes in groups to think about what is mentoring. So I'm quite an impatient person, so I'll allow you 20 seconds to do that. So this is the description from Eric Parslow from the Oxford School of Coaching and Mentoring. Mentoring is to support and encourage people to manage their own learning so that they can maximise their potential, develop their skills, improve their performance, and become the person that they want to be. So I think when we start things, we start foundation, we start a consultant job, we start anything, we kind of imagine it's going to be an uphill, but not a very steep uphill journey. But you know from having been doctors for 1, 2, 3 years that in reality it's not like that. There are ups and downs, there are very deep pits. And these are unexpected and unanticipated. And what we want you to do is to help the interim F1s to build bridges when they can't see a solution, to sail through the uncharted territories, and to come out at the end happy and embedded in the NHS. So we're talking about developmental mentoring. The mentee sets the agenda. It's about them. It's not about you. It's a relationship of equals. You're not their boss. You're not in charge of them. It's not directing and it's not judgmental. So it's working as a team. There's benefits obviously for your interim FY1. You can provide a really great listening ear. You can improve their self-confidence, their knowledge and their skills. You can allow them a chance to reflect in a sort of private space, a supportive environment, and help them how to problem solve. But I promise you there's something in it for you too. We all know in medicine the satisfaction of helping others, and this is a one-to-one relationship. It's going to enhance your skills. It's going to give you new perspectives, help develop you as a leader, enable you to network with the new cohort of incoming doctors, and invest in your future and theirs as well. A few don'ts. It's not your problem, it's theirs. Mentors don't just focus on the problem. They certainly don't do most of the talking, although obviously I'm having to do it today. They don't provide the answers and they don't solve problems. They certainly don't make decisions. I'll tell you what they do in a minute. And just important to add, they're not your mum, your counsellor, your psychiatrist, your best friend or your boss. They're your mentor. So we're hoping that our interim FY1s will be committed and open to the process. I kind of think they will be. They've volunteered to do this in a very challenging time, and they really should still be at medical school. So I think they will certainly be committed. We're hoping they're reflective, that they can challenge and be challenged, that they're open and honest, that they take some responsibility, they'll work outside their comfort zone, and they want to make progress. I really think they will. So starting off and making it work and the anatomy of a session, I'm just going to cover a few things, what to cover in the first meeting, building rapport, and then what makes a good meeting, and the GROW model, which is quite important, and you might have heard of that before. So the first meeting. Build rapport, share something about you, tell them where you went to medical school, where you live, whether you've got pets, whether you like running, where the local pubs would be, should they be open, and so on. Clarify your expectations, some ground rules. For example, some boundaries. How are you going to contact each other? Is it only going to be face-to-face when you're on the same shift? Are you going to have WhatsApps? Are you going to send texts? Are you going to respond to them Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, 9 till 8 p.m? What about the weekends? And how quickly will they get a response? Some people want responses instantly. I would say I have 3 teenagers doing that, but these interim F1s are a little older and a little more sensible. So, but let them know how soon you can respond to them. Moving on to what makes a good meeting. There's several things. I'm sure you can all read this. So, thinking of 5 questions that every mentor should ask. You need to ask these interim F1s, or your interim F1, what it is you really want to be and do. What are you doing really well that's helping you to get there? What are you not doing so well that's preventing you from getting there? What will you do differently tomorrow to meet those challenges? And how can I help, or where do you need the most advice? So, going through the anatomy of a mentoring session. Before the meeting, you need to recap what you did last time, what you asked them to do, whether you were asked to do anything, whether you've done it. Then you need to have an update, agree what you're going to talk about next, and then talk about it. I'll tell you about the GROW model in just a minute, and then plan what you're going to do next. It might sound a bit artificial, but otherwise I think it's quite easy just to say, oh yeah, are you okay? Yes, that was fine. Oh gosh, yeah, maybe I'll show you how to do cannulation tomorrow. And it's not quite so settling and reassuring as something with a little more structure and purpose. So the questioning funnel, I think you've all learned about this in communication skills, a nice opening question, and then be more specific, probe a bit deeper and check. So you could say, how was your first day as an interim F1? What was good? What was not so good? What did you do? What did you feel? What did you learn? And then summarise and check their understanding. So it seems that went well because this happened. Is that right? So the GROW model, this is talking about the goal, what do you want to achieve? The reality, where are you now? The options, what could you do? And the will, what will you do? So the goal, what do you want to achieve? I want to learn to catheterise someone. I want to learn to do TTOs. The reality, what is happening now? So questions around that is, okay, so catheterisation, what's the current situation? What have you done about that so far? What have you tried? What worked well and what worked less well? How do you feel about it? What do you think you're afraid of? How confident are you about? And what stopped you from doing more? So this is putting the onus back on your interim F1 to actually think about their issues with whatever they want to do and why they're not there yet. And are there others that can help you? It's not about you as the mentor necessarily helping them, but there will be other people that they can turn to for help, but you need to point them in the right direction. So the options, what could you do? So what are your options to learn to catheterise somebody? What do you need to do next? What could be your first step? Or what else could you do? Who else might be able to help you? What's the hardest part? Is it that you don't know who to contact? Can I help you with that? What would you gain or lose by doing that? And if anything was possible, what would you do? So having established what they want to achieve, what they're at the moment, and the things that they could do to get them to where they want to be, what are they actually going to do? You've discussed several options. They're probably not going to follow all of them. So what are you going to do? We've got these options. You could go to the clinical skills lab. You could see if the urology nurses are free. I could show you, but I'm on holiday now for a week, so that's probably not really going to work. What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? Will that achieve what you want to do? If there are obstacles, how will you deal with these? Who needs to know about this? What support do you need and how will you get it? And how confident are you that you will carry out the agreed actions? And you don't look completely confident? What stops you from being completely confident about this? And what would make you certain that you can achieve it? They might not be able to answer all these questions, but these are the things to kind of probe and find out what they're actually going to do about it, rather than just come along next week and say, oh, I still can't do it. Listening skills. I think you've been taught communication so well at medical school. You're all pretty good listeners. But remember, this is active listening. This isn't jumping in and interrupting. You need to pay attention. You need to give them your undivided attention, not to be looking at your phone, not gazing out the window, looking at them. Show them you're listening. Provide feedback. You've all done this before. Reflect on what they've said, paraphrase it, summarise it. And please try not to interrupt. It's so hard not to interrupt. Try not to. And then respond appropriately, honest and openly. So I'm just ticking through as you think about all these things you need to do. What if your mentee gets upset? I think it's very easy to get upset. The NHS is so stressful at the moment. I think we're all quite upset. It's really not unusual for mentees to get upset even outside this pandemic. So if you see that happening, recognise it and accept it and say, that's fine. I feel quite strained and stressed as well. Listen to their concerns and be empathic, but don't get too involved. This is a bit like taking home terrible stories of what's going on in the wards. You're probably much better at it than you were when you started F1. Try to avoid judgment, allow time, and help them to examine why they might feel the way they do. And once they're ready, try and shift their perspective from being upset and worried to how they can problem solve the situation. And check that they're okay to leave your session and think about, do I actually need to escalate this? Is this something I'm not happy to keep to myself? Remembering you're not their doctor or their supervisor, you're their mentor. What about resistance? You might get some interim F1s who say, I don't believe, I'm not sure, I don't agree. So acknowledge that they're clearly finding the discussion difficult or the topic item difficult. Describe what you see or hear. So I've noticed that your tone has changed and I think you're probably finding this discussion difficult. See what they say. Keep listening, stop interrupting, and then work together to come up with a plan. It's all easier said than done, but you will get there with some practice. So challenge as a learning tool. It's very easy to be in our comfort zone. For example, this interim F1 can really nicely take blood and cannulate people, but they cannot catheterise people. So they need to move into their discomfort zone with some support from you and scaffolding from others to learn to do what they want to achieve next, what their goal is. Please don't push them into their panic zone because things will completely spiral out of control and you can't learn when you're stressed. So think about their feelings, who's owning the problem, perspectives, recurring patterns, evidence of things going on, goals, and so on. What about if you remain concerned about your mentee? You feel that they're coming to work and they're quite tearful, they don't really want to be there, they're not really engaging with you. Maybe they're scared, maybe they're ill themselves, maybe they've been pushed into doing this interim F1 job by somebody. Please escalate it. Remember, you're not their doctor, you're not their boss. So speak to someone in your team, your clinical supervisor or another consultant who you're working with today. If they don't seem to be interested or they're not around, please escalate it to your foundation training program director or someone else in the educational team who you're happy talking to, for example, someone in medical staffing or someone in the postgraduate centre, the director of medical education, but please escalate it to someone with responsibility. So finally, having summarised a day's teaching into about 20 minutes, your homework. A mini mentoring session. So I'd really advise you to find someone to practice your mentoring skills with for 15 minutes, using that GROW model as a guide. Remember, you can go back through this presentation and have another look at that GROW model. It's the goal, the reality, how are you going to get there, and so on. And when you've done your mini mentoring session, please ask your mentee for feedback. Were you listening appropriately? Did you support them on to the next step of what they wanted to do? Or were you busy looking at your phone, looking out the window and trying to watch a video? So I hope that in this very brief presentation, I've increased your understanding of mentoring, how it differs from other workplace relationships, such with different consultants and other people more senior to you. Understand how to set up, run and troubleshoot mentoring relationships and develop some practical knowledge around this, increasing your mentoring skills and your confidence. So normally we have a half-an-hour question session now. I have put my email at the top, slightly incorrectly because there is, of course, a full stop there instead of a comma. But please do contact me or your local In Your Trust Foundation Training Programme Director if you have any questions at all. And please escalate any difficulties you foresee with your interim F1 to somebody more senior than you. Finally, I'd like to thank you all for volunteering to help with these interim FY1s. And I'd like to thank the East of England mentoring team who've put these slides together for me. I hope you really enjoy welcoming these new doctors. I think they'll, once they get on their feet, once they find their feet, they will be fantastically useful to your teams. Thank you.